Hi guys. So looking over my notes, I realize there's some holes in the past week I need to fill in so that you're caught up and you're fully understanding the concept of this epic regarding Gilgamesh. Primarily on the Schoology account, you've been reading the prose version because that was the best PDF I could find for you to read. It's very reliable and it is accurate. So, and it is a Penguin Classic edition, so that's the reason I selected it also. So keeping that in mind, let's shift over to that and I'll walk you through some of the material. This video will be mostly review and I'll go chapter by chapter for the rest of the videos. Okay, so on the screen should be the text of Gilgamesh. So again, the prologue will be a review and part of chapter 1 will be a review. So the prologue starts out immediately with the narrator stating, "I will proclaim to the world the deeds of Gilgamesh." This is a very important text in the sense that here we have, for the first time, recorded an omniscient narrator talking directly to the reader. And he is basically saying, this is my plan, this is what I'm going to do. And he's showing his personality within the prologue. Okay, and he's also starts out giving you a brief history of the hero. So again, Gilgamesh is the primary protagonist. He's the main focus through the whole epic. That's why it's called the Epic of Gilgamesh. Okay, so excuse me. So in the first paragraph it says, "This was the man to whom all things were known. This was the king who knew the countries of the world. He was wise, he saw mysteries, and knew secret things. He brought us a tale of the days before the flood. He went on a long journey, was weary, worn out with labor. Returning, he rested. He engraved on a stone the whole story." What this paragraph is revealing to you is the entire synopsis of the epic. Gilgamesh is a basic epic hero. He transforms, you can say, 2 or 3 times throughout the text, and he learns a lesson in the end. In particular, he brings back to humanity a main message, and he himself learns a major lesson about what it means to be human. So as we go through this chapter by chapter, pay attention to how Gilgamesh responds to the world and the environment surrounding him. Okay. I'll point out some secondary characters as we go along and how they react to Gilgamesh, how they react in counterpoint to the environment. Okay. So according to the first paragraph, you're led to believe that Gilgamesh himself engraved what we're reading. He himself put on a stone the whole story. So the narrator is playing with the plot a little because we know the author who composed this for us is basically a Babylonian scribe. His name is really complex. I always refer to his first syllable name of his name, and it's Sin, S-I-N. That is it's a duplicate of the name of the moon. So the moon god is named Sin. So this scribe who put it all down for us is using fictitious plot development by having Gilgamesh actually compose what happened. It is based on a real king. However, as you'll soon find out, the details here are all fictitious. They're over embellishing the qualities of what made Gilgamesh, the historical Gilgamesh, a member of nobility. Okay, so some additional information you're given about Gilgamesh. When the gods created him, Gilgamesh, they gave him a perfect body. Shamash, the glorious sun, endowed him with beauty. Adad, the god of the storm, endowed him with courage. The great gods made his beauty perfect, surpassing all others, terrifying like a great wild bull. 2/3 they made him God, and 1/3 man. So what's significant about this passage? You learn he's 2/3 God. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Hercules from the Greek and Roman tradition, and typically, when if one of your parents is a god, and if one of your parents is mortal, you'd be half god, half mortal. But in this case, the gods are, through fate, are creating Gilgamesh, and he is, in essence, because of this, 2/3 God. Now, the Greek and Roman tradition have it that if you're half God, half human, in the end you have the potential to become deified, to become a part of the God tradition. As far as Gilgamesh is concerned, unfortunately, he does not become a god, despite the fact he has it in his bloodline. Okay? His mother, Ninsun, is a goddess. His father is a king who's mortal. Okay? So with that combination, through the god's intervention, he's 2/3 God and 1/3 man. So he is the king of Uruk, as it shows you here, the city. Okay? It's an important city in the Fertile Crescent. In this case, it is a city-state. It's a kingdom unto itself, and it has 2 or 3 temples devoted to the Babylonian gods and goddesses. Okay, so down here where it says, approach Eanna, the dwelling of Ishtar, that is the temple where Ishtar dwells when she is when she's visiting Earth. That's where she'll spend her time mostly. Otherwise, she's in the heavens. So when you're reading the second paragraph here, basically the narrator's taking you on a little tour of the city. He's giving you some details to look out for. And what I love about this piece is he's giving you pointers. He's encouraging you to become involved with the text all through his introduction of the city. So this is an important point. The passage here is going to echo at the conclusion. So remember, the description of the city here is going to be echoed in a couple of videos. Okay? So let me read off a few lines here. It says, look at it still today. The outer wall where the cornice runs, it shines with the brilliance of copper, and the inner wall, it has no equal. Touch the threshold, it is ancient. Approach Eanna, the dwelling of Ishtar, Our Lady of love and war, the like of which no later day king, no man alive can equal. Climb upon the wall of Uruk, walk along it. I say, regard the foundation, terrace, and examine the masonry. Is it not burnt brick and good? The 7 sages laid the foundations. Okay, so something to keep in mind, you've got a time placement marker here. So it opens up with, look at it still today. So the narrator himself is at a time period distant from Gilgamesh the king. So all the events he's talking about happened way in the past. but the city is still standing. The narrator is assuming you are standing in front of the ruins, basically, of the city, although the wall is still standing. And you are recognizing the brilliance of this construction that surrounds you. The second point of interest, notice he brings up Ishtar. She's going to be a player later on in the text. She is the goddess of love and war. If you think about it, there's an association there that's really in depth. You may have heard the expression all fair in love and war. It sums up to Ishtar. Okay. So another way of putting it, she's the goddess of fertility. And because of her status, she's a very powerful goddess. Okay. This mention of the 7 sages laid the foundations. The word sages is a noun. It means ancient, wise man, or you could also say prophet. So the 7 sages are 7 mortal men who help lay out the different cities in the Fertile Crescent. Okay, so one of the cities, of course, is Uruk. So that's in previous years before Gilgamesh. Okay, Gilgamesh is known for having built the wall. That's his claim to fame. He's strengthening the foundations of the city. Okay, so chapter 1, the coming of Enkidu. Now, again, this is what we went over in the last video when we were looking at the direct translation. This is a hybrid of direct translation and free translation. So, technically, it's word for word. So it's following the plot, it's following the phrasing, it's following the logic of the typical standard text, but the author, the translator, is presenting it in prose, not in poetry. So in that sense, the presentation would be considered free, but the wording, the language, is a direct translation. Okay. Okay. What we have here, Gilgamesh is a tyrant. At the very opening, he's a tyrant. So the story starts out what's termed in medias res. That's 3 words in Latin in the middle of things. In medias res. He's being cruel to his people. So what he's doing, it says, no son is left with his father, for Gilgamesh takes them all, even the children. Yet the king should be a shepherd to his people. His lust leaves no virgin to her lover, neither the warrior's daughter, nor the wife of the noble. Yet this is the shepherd of the city, wise, calmly, and resolute. So basically, to simplify it, he is taking the children from the family. He's taking the male children, putting them in his army. He's taking the young women before they are to be married and basically deflowering them and then letting them be married. He's making sure that his own seed is being promoted and his genetics are scattered throughout the city. He is in the mode of an absolute ruler. So if you remember a few weeks back, we talked about absolutism. He is an absolute ruler. He does what he wants to do because he can. There's no other one leading besides himself. He is in control. Everyone else follows his ideas. He may seek advice from a few of the noble class, but for the most part, he does what he wants. even though he's supposed to be a shepherd of the city. He's supposed to be a protector of the city. He's being a tyrant. So the gods have heard the lament of the people. Okay? The lament of the people goes to the gods of heaven. The gods of heaven take the complaint to Anu, the god of Uruk. Okay. Okay. Anu takes the complaint to Aruru, the goddess of creation. Okay. So she, in essence, is who produced humanity. If you remember back when we read the Enuma Elish, that Babylonian epic, it credited Ea with the creation of humankind. So the way to look at it, Ea came up with the idea of taking the blood of the sinful god and making humans. So what he did was he gave it to Aruru, who gave birth to humanity. Okay. So in the earlier text that we read, she's not mentioned, but here she's a major player. Okay. So the complaint goes to Aruru. She states that, well, let me put it this way. Anu says to her, "You made him, Gilgamesh, O Aruru, now create his equal. Let it be as like him as his own reflection, his second self, stormy heart for stormy heart. Let them contend together and leave Uruk in quiet." So what's happening? Anu, basically a major god who is a patron god of Uruk, has decreed that Aruru, the goddess of creation, will create another man out of mud, out of clay, and this man will be equal to Gilgamesh. This character is going to be a major player throughout the epic, and his name is Enkidu. Enkidu serves as a foil character. He's a secondary protagonist. So when I say the word foil, F-O-I-L, that basically means he's a character that is a rough mirror copy of Gilgamesh, and he sometimes is an inverse of Gilgamesh. His personality balances out anything that Gilgamesh's personality lacks, or whatever Gilgamesh's personality is overemphasizing. Enkidu will be slightly less. So another good way of putting it, whenever Gilgamesh is mad or angry and in a rash, impatient type of mode, Enkidu will be calm, complacent, and reasonable and try to talk Gilgamesh into a calmer state. So they balance each other out. But they're both equal in strength, and that's the importance to pick up here. They're going to meet in battle. That's the first solution to the problem, is have them battle it out and make Gilgamesh admit that he needs to stop taking out his passions on the people. Okay, so it says here, the goddess conceived an image in her mind, and it was the stuff of Anu of the firmament. Basically, it echoes the qualities of Anu. She dipped her hands in water and pinched off clay. She let it fall in the wilderness, and noble Enkidu was created. There was virtue in him of the god of war, of Ninurta himself. His body was rough. He had long hair like a woman's. It waved like the hair of Nisaba, the goddess of corn. His body was covered with matted hair like Samakwan, the god of cattle. He was innocent of mankind. He knew nothing of the cultivated land. Okay, so because he's been created out of dirt, mud, he wasn't born of man or woman, okay? He's innocent of mankind. So he doesn't understand civilization. Therefore, he's a symbol of nature. Gilgamesh, on the other hand, is a symbol of civilization. Okay, so this becomes, at the beginning stages of the epic, we have nature versus civilization. It gives you more information about Enkidu because he's been dropped. Is a good way of looking at it, just dropped into the world. Enkidu is eating grass in the hills with gazelles. He is a animal. He's pure animal himself. He doesn't know what it means to be a man. And this is where a trapper comes across him. And after 3 days, the trapper is frozen with fear. So the trapper doesn't know what to do. The trapper goes to his own father, and it says, with awe in his heart, he spoke to his father. Father, there's a man unlike any other who comes down from the hills. He is the strongest in the world. He is like an immortal from heaven. He ranges over the hills with wild beasts and eats grass. He ranges through your land and comes down to the wells. I am afraid and dare not go near him. He fills in the pits which I dig and tears up my traps set for the game. He helps the beasts to escape, and now they slip through my fingers. So, Enkidu, in his state of nature, is protecting the animals. But do notice his qualities echo the gods. So, even the trapper who just casually sees him is describing him as godlike. Okay, and that's why he's afraid and won't go near him. He knows he's no match. The father of the trapper says, take him to Uruk. Take him to meet Gilgamesh. Okay. Gilgamesh is as strong as a star from heaven. So like a meteor or an asteroid. So the trapper's father says, go to Uruk, find Gilgamesh, talk about the wild man, explain the situation. Ask Gilgamesh to give you a harlot, a prostitute basically, a wanton from the temple of love. Return with her and let her woman's power overpower this man. So what it comes down to, because no male figure can compete with Enkidu, the father is saying, go get a woman from the temple of Ishtar, goddess of sex and war, and have the priestess, the prostitute, subdue Enkidu. So what is basically going to happen when Enkidu comes to drink down at the wells, she'll be there, stripped naked, and when he sees her beckoning to him, then the wild beasts are going to reject him. Because what it ends up, he learns the ways of being a man. So the animals don't recognize him anymore and they flee. So the trapper goes to Uruk, goes up to Gilgamesh the king, says what his father tells him to say, and Gilgamesh says, take back with you a harlot, a child of pleasure. Okay? And he repeats what the father said. At the drinking hole she will strip, and when he sees her beckoning, he will embrace her, and the game of the wilderness will surely reject him. Okay? So the trapper and the harlot go back into the nature, and they sit down to drink. Okay, on the first day, they wait for Enkidu. The second day, they wait, but it's on the third day, the herds, the gazelles, return to the water hole. They came down to drink, and Enkidu was with them. The small wild creatures of the plains were glad of the water, and Enkidu was with them. because he's in this pure animal state, he only eats grass, he only drinks water. Okay. The prostitute sees him. He's a savage man. The trapper tells her to go to him, make your breast bare, have no shame, but do not delay, and welcome his love. Okay. She basically follows the directions. She was not ashamed to take him. She made herself naked and welcomed his eagerness. As he lay on her, murmuring love, she taught him the woman's art. So again, the woman's art is the only way to tame a wild man. And for 6 days and 7 nights, they lay together. And in the process, Enkidu forgets what it's like to be a wild beast in himself. So when the gazelles see him, they bolt away. When any of the animals see him, they flee. And as a result, Enkidu loses his swiftness. He retains his strength, but he can't now run as fast as a gazelle, is what it comes down to. So he basically, now that he has reason, he has an epiphany moment. He returns and sits down at the woman's feet and listens intently to what she said. And the prostitute is going to say, "You are wise, Enkidu, and now you have become like a god. Why do you want to run wild with the beasts in the hills? Come with me. I will take you to strong-willed Uruk, to the blessed temple of Ishtar and of Anu, of love and of heaven. There Gilgamesh lives, who is very strong, and like a wild bull, he lords it over men." So this is the second time that an allusion to Gilgamesh has been made, that he's like a wild bull. This is an agricultural society, so for a man to be compared to a bull is a compliment. For a woman to be compared to a cow or to cattle, it's a compliment. Okay. Now, Enkidu is going to be pleased, as it says here. Because he's lost his animals, his animals as his companions, he's looking for something to replace them. So as it says, he longed for a comrade, for one who would understand his heart. And he agrees to go. And he'll go to Uruk to see Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh lords it over the people, and he's going to challenge him. Okay? He knows his purpose now. So because he's been with a woman for the first time, and he understands what initially it means to be human, he has a purpose. He knows what the gods created him to do. Okay? So they go traveling. I'm skipping forward. Okay. So, in a sense of mystic qualities of this priestess / prostitute, she is envisioning what's happening in the city of Uruk. And what is happening at the same time the prostitute is with Enkidu, Gilgamesh is with his mother. What's happened, Gilgamesh has been having dreams, and he doesn't understand them. His mother, Ninsun, who's a wise goddess, is going to interpret his dreams. Dream interpretation is a major part of the ancient world. If you've read the Old Testament, Joseph in the Bible has a special talent for interpreting dreams, and that plays out in his story. He interprets two prisoners their dreams, and he also interprets the dream of the Pharaoh. And that's how he moves up the hierarchy within that society, through his dream interpretation. In this case, Ninsun, Gilgamesh's mother, is able to interpret the dream that Gilgamesh himself is having. So, um, what it says here, Gilgamesh says, I was full of joy. The young heroes were around me, and I walked through the night under the stars of the firmament. And one, a meteor of the stuff of Anu, fell down from heaven. I tried to lift it, but it proved too heavy. All the people of Europe came round to see it. The common people jostled, and the nobles thronged to kiss its feet. And to me, its attraction was like the love of a woman. They helped me. I braced my forehead, and I raised it with thongs and brought it to you, and you yourself pronounced it my brother. And she translates this to saying, this star of heaven, which descended like a meteor from the sky, which you tried to lift but found too heavy, when you tried to move it, it would not budge, and so you brought it to my feet. I made it for you, a golden spur, and you were drawn as though to a woman. This is the strong comrade, the one who brings help to his friends in need. He is the strongest of wild creatures, the stuff of Anu, born in the grasslands, and the wild hills reared him. When you see him, you will be glad. You will love him as a woman, and he will never forsake you. This is the meaning of the dream. So you might have picked up on the fact that Gilgamesh is being told that he's going to fall in love in a strong bromance sort of fashion to Enkidu. In this society, based off this epic, it seems they had no questioning of the type of relationships that can develop in humans. So, in other words, male love was permissible. Male-female love was expected, but male-male love is not a sin. Okay, that's the first dream. The second dream, it's going to echo and repeat what was earlier established in the first dream, but in this case, the object that Gilgamesh finds is an axe. And in the dream, he loves it like a woman, and he wore it at his side. So what it's going to come down to it, the axe is a symbol of Enkidu. And Ninsun is going to tell him that. If you remember, an axe is a tool, it's a weapon. So Enkidu, as a tool and a weapon, is going to help Gilgamesh survive and accomplish great deeds. Okay. So that's the end of the vision. Let's call it a vision. That's the end of the vision that the prostitute has, that she tells the Enkidu. Okay. They next come across some shepherds. Shepherds are major symbols in the ancient world. If you remember the Old Testament and the New Testament, shepherds are important. Whenever a deity is introduced to a society, shepherds are important. They are the ones who are first to accept a deity or a major hero into their community, and from there, the hero or deity moves on to the larger city or society as a whole. Okay? That often repeats in ancient literature. In this case, he becomes a part of their society. He eats the bread that they have. He drinks, in this case, it says the wine. In other texts, they call it beer or ale. It's an alcoholic-based drink. And basically, he drinks 7 goblets of this brew. He becomes merry. His heart is exalted and his face shone. Okay? He's going to clean himself up. He rubbed down the matted hair of his body and anointed himself with oil. Enkidu had become a man. So this is his full transformation. It's a physical transformation. Before it was, let's say, spiritual or mental. Now it's physical. Okay. He's going to put on men's clothing. He's going to look like a bridegroom. He's worthy of being married. So while the shepherds are sleeping, he's going to go catch wolves and lions to protect the shepherds. Enkidu becomes a watchman for the shepherds. So he's going to stay in this community for a while. And then he bumps into a messenger. In Shakespeare, messengers are very important. They often tell main characters what's happening backstage. They'll relay an important death or an important birth, something that the audience didn't see, but it moves the plot along, their plot developments. So in this case, this man basically tells Enkidu that there is going to be a wedding, but that he's invited to. But Gilgamesh, the king, is about to celebrate marriage, and he'll demand to be the first with a bride. The husband will not be able to have a virgin as a wife, in other words, because Gilgamesh is taking his rightful kingly possession. So Enkidu is going to get mad. A just king would not be doing this to his people. And Enkidu says, I will go to the place where Gilgamesh lords it over the people. I will challenge him boldly, and I will cry aloud in Uruk, I have come to change the old order, for I am the strongest here. Okay. So Enkidu goes to the city. He stands in the street, and he blocks the path of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is furious, and they fight, they wrestle, they box, they grapple. Okay, they're pushing each other like bulls. Their fight is so violent they broke doorposts. The walls are shaking. They snorted like bulls like together. Okay. Finally, after a few minutes of this tussling, Gilgamesh is forced down on his knee. Okay. This version says, going down on his knee, he flips Enkidu or throws him. Okay. And at that point, Gilgamesh, he loses all his anger. When Enkidu was thrown, he said to Gilgamesh, there is no other like you in the world. Nin's son, who is strong as a wild ox in the byre, she was the mother who bore you, and now you are raised above all men, and Enlil has given you the kingship, for your strength surpasses the strength of men. So Enkidu and Gilgamesh embraced, and their friendship was sealed. So because technically Gilgamesh is slightly stronger than Enkidu, but because Gilgamesh respects Enkidu's strength, his fury, his personality, and his mother has interpreted the dreams, Gilgamesh is now going to be calmer. He understands he's made mistakes as a king, and he wants to right the wrong. Okay? And Enkidu and Gilgamesh have become strong friends. And it'll be an intimate relationship. Within the text, it's never explicit about how far the intimacy goes, but it is often referred to as a very intense companionship. Okay. The best you can get out of it in modern terms, it's like a pansexual society. You have sex whenever to whomever you want, is what it comes down to. Gilgamesh does have a queen, and he will have children. So, as I said before, it's not homosexual, and he's not totally 100% 100% straight. It's a pansexual relationship. That's the easiest way to interpret it. Okay. So that's chapter 1. I'm going to end the video here. If you have any questions or need to talk to me about chapter 1, by all means, give me a call, drop me a line. So over the weekend, I will create videos for chapter 2 and chapter 3, and we'll move on. Okay? Again, the test will be on Friday. So I hope you have a nice Halloween. Be careful. Don't eat too much candy. And be safe.